deliver a quality product in the beginning and refine your messaging and be willing to be wrong, because you will be. And those that are willing to be wrong are the most successful in building their business.
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, a podcast designed to encourage women to take their back of the napkin idea, launch it, and grow a wildly successful business. I founded We Wild Women, an entrepreneur training company, to help women like you, moms and go-getters, start the business of their dreams the right way. Not too long ago, I launched my $1 million agency when I was 8 months pregnant with my first son and welcomed my second son only 11 months later. So I know how to grow businesses and babies. Join me as I teach you the guiding principles and how to start and grow your business while overcoming the voice in your head screaming, "It's not possible." These raw and funny episodes will make you feel like you're right here with me, sipping on some Pinot and leaving more confident saying, "Yes, I can." Every episode leaves you with some action items and a real kick in the ass to get started. Here on Into the Wild, you'll hear from other trailblazing entrepreneurs and experts, because I know that the best advice is from someone who's successfully done it before. So put your headphones on, grab a cup of coffee, and tune in, because Into the Wild is about to begin.
Subscribe to my mom's podcast.
Hey, you wild women. My next guest built a retail business and became a millionaire at 32, only to lose it all in the recession 2 years later. She is now the successful owner of $3 million brand building businesses and the mother of 3 children. Jennifer, a San Francisco Bay Area-based brand building and leadership expert, she helps entrepreneurs get seen, heard, and paid for being themselves. She is the creator of the Master Brand Method, a framework to develop powerful brand archetypes that win customers' hearts, leveraging her 20 years of corporate experience and her launching of multiple companies. She uses the Master Brand Method in strategic consulting for emerging entrepreneurs, celebrity brands like Oprah, Steve Harvey, and major corporations including Verizon, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the Bank of Hawaii. So please welcome the incredible Jennifer Kem.
Oh, Renee, thank you so much for having me. Let's get wild.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, first wild question that everyone gets right is, where are you from?
I'm actually from Hawaii. I'm from Honolulu, or actually the North Shore of Hawaii.
Cool. And now you're in SF.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The tech city.
Yeah.
The last time I was there, gosh, was probably 5 years ago. I'm sure it's changed a lot in the last.
It has. And at the same time, things have stayed the same, which I actually like.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your favorite quote?
Action is the antidote to despair by Joan Baez.
Oh, okay. Is the antidote to despair.
Yes, action is the antidote to despair.
Okay.
Whenever I'm feeling that low, I realize I just have to move, even if it's a small, tiny one.
Love it. Yeah, it's like Tony Robbins' power move. Make your move. What is the best piece of business advice you ever received?
Take on the projects that seem the most challenging to you and do them first.
Yes. Yes. I love that. What is one of your biggest business mistakes?
Oh, I have so many. I have to pick one. I think not paying attention to how important understanding your money is, your personal money in relationship to your business.
Yeah. Explain that a little bit more.
So you talked about in my intro how I had a retail business that went gangbusters when I started it. And I was so good at the marketing, sales, and branding part that I didn't really take into account. I just thought, okay, I can make anything happen. And my financial advisor kept telling me, the recession's coming, bear down, don't spend as much. And it made me that in 2008, when I lost everything, it was the one thing I said I would never do again, is not have enough cash reserves and personal wealth put aside so that I could climb out of a financial crisis at any time. So it was a big aha moment, and I'll never do that again.
So like the rainy day thing is now, okay. Yeah. I know. And I mean, especially if you have a terrible relationship with money, when you see that extra cash in your bank account, you're like, oh, I can spend this.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I always tell people I'm so good at making money, but I used to be not very good at keeping it. And I think a lot of people resonate with that. Or the flip side, they're like, I'm really good at keeping it, but I'm not good at making it. And so I had to get into a relationship with my keeping part of me and how important that was to my future. So, yeah.
I love it. And unfortunately, it took a very expensive mistake to get there.
Oh, yes.
And now you have this message that was once your mess that you can share with the world.
Exactly.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what is a book that you're reading today that you can highly recommend?
Oh, I'm actually right in the middle of it. Right before I jumped onto this pod with you, I was listening to Atlas of the Heart with Brene Brown. And I actually have the hardcover and the audio version. And as a person who does branding for a living, her book is just gloriously done. And then I just got through the intro in the first chapter in the past couple of days. And I love that she focuses on both real feelings and data. And so she knows how to meld both so that people, I think, can listen and lean in. And so I'm already enjoying it. Since I'm already enjoying it and I'm a bookophile, meaning like I read, I wish I could just read for a living. That would be my...
Well, I think Warren Buffett does, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, let's figure out his money thing. And
right.
And so I get through a book a week. And so if I like the book from the get-go, then it's a high recommendation for me because I like to say I read is my number one hobby.
Okay. So this is irrelevant to the topic, but maybe relevant is like you have 3 kids, businesses. How do you read a book a week?
Yeah. Well, I started to fall in love with audio reading because I was such a reading snob before. I was like, if it's not tactile and real and between my hands, it's not really reading. And I started to notice about 5 years ago that I couldn't read fast enough because of the swirly whirl of motherhood and business. And so I just kind of got over my tantrum and I started listening to books in addition. And I find that if I like an audiobook, I will actually buy it, which is weird. I listen and then I buy it because I actually like to go through and highlight it after I get it because I'm a speed reader. And so now I'm learning how to be a ear reader, if you
ear reader. A new word, ear reader.
Yeah, ear reader.
I get it. I find it a totally different experience audio, but I use my Kindle now and I was dead set against it. But with travel, you just can't lug books around with you.
You can't. It's so hard. Yeah. And I love that with Kindle now too, because I also use that. I'm like anything related to a book, I try. And so you can highlight things, you can cut and paste out into a notes app. So, I'm learning to be multi-book, smart, I guess, and how to, consume.
You're like not ambidextrous, but you're like ambi-bookist.
That's cool. I'm going to use that. Yeah. I love that.
There you go. Perfect. Okay. So one question about that too is, have you read her other books?
I have, but not all of them. I think the other one that I really like from her is Dare to Lead.
Okay.
Because it has a lot of action oriented. And I think it's so well done for women. She didn't write it just for women, but I think that she's presenting a different way to lead that's more in alignment with our way of doing things and living through life. And I think she's inviting us to be a little wild in it. And then she has another book that is like Brave the Wilderness, I think. I can't remember the actual title. And I liked it. I didn't love it. I felt like it was a good next step for Dare to Lead, but I still think Dare to Lead is much, much better. And again,
it's a good book.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, I need to get that. I'll pick it up. Maybe a physical copy. Who knows?
Yeah, it's pretty. It's so beautiful on your shelf too.
I know. The aesthetics. More important than anything else. Yeah. Okay, so I want to know what inspired you to start, we'll say this company. I know you have 3, right? You're currently operating 3. So what's like the branding one? Yeah. Are they all branding?
Well, 2 of them of the 3 are. And so one specifically helps entrepreneurs and one specifically supports corporate. And that I felt, a decade ago when I started Master Brand Institute, which is where I spent a lot of my time, especially if you find me online, you'll see me speaking from that platform the most, is at first it was all under the company, which was called ChemCom, which is my name plus communications. And I always dreamed as a little girl that I would one day be the next Ted Turner. Like I would see ChemCom on the top of a building and I would start the next news station that's related to women's topics. I had all these crazy dreams, but I was supporting mainly corporations, high-tech companies, Oracle, Microsoft, still Verizon, still clients of mine today. And then I had a lot of friends, colleagues who said, you've built a lot of companies or you help people build companies. And how do you do it? And I said, well, I just give my information for free and I'm happy to do that. One of my highest values is generosity. So I'm always like, yeah, I'll tell you how to do it. And then a mentor of mine said, you should teach entrepreneurs how to think like this, because my philosophy is that most entrepreneurs, or even when you're starting out, you don't realize that what's really influencing us are the master brands of the world. Meaning like, in fact, right now we're speaking through master brands. You know, you might be looking at a MacBook Pro. We were talking about that when we were getting ready for this call. Whatever car you drive, whatever TV you watch, whatever even online brands that you consume or buy from, we're actually quite influenced by the bigger brands. And a lot of entrepreneurs don't use that as a model for what they want to build. Instead, they look at, let's say, their competition or the people that are a little bit ahead of them. That causes a lot of mental health problems, I like to say, especially for women, like comparitis, FOMO, not thinking that I can do it, imposter syndrome. But it's because we're looking at the wrong things. And so
interesting.
Yeah. So long story short, I started Master Brand Institute as a place where entrepreneurs could learn because of that mentor, frankly, begging me to do it. She was like, just do it. And I said, oh God, I just can't put another thing on my plate. You know, I'm sure you understand that, Renee, because we're moms. We've got a lot going on. I'm like, no. I'm so happy my business is going well, especially after my loss in 2008 of my retail business, that I just thought, oh, no, I want to get comfortable. But I think sometimes, back to a couple questions ago, you asked me what was the best business advice I ever got. And my first boss in the corporate world, Maria, gave me that advice, which was take on every project that challenges you, because you won't know if you really want it unless you try it. And so that's kind of what happened with this thing. And then it's great because it grew and I get to help people like us, you know, and I think that's really beautiful. So,
yeah. I always say, if it doesn't scare you and it doesn't make you uncomfortable, then it's not worth it, especially 100%. When it comes to entrepreneurship, right? Because like we always avoid the thing. We talk about, so I had a master class yesterday and we're talking about successful habits and how we think about, this is the goal we want to achieve. And what are the things we have to do to get there? Well, generally it's creating new habits to try and do something new. And then as soon as something becomes uncomfortable, we pull back. Because we're afraid of failure. We're afraid of success. We're afraid of losing money. We're afraid of making a lot of money. Right? We're afraid of change. That's what it is.
Yes. To be human is like the greatest gift and terror of our lives.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
So you've come a long way and you have these like messes that are now your message. And you've lived it. You've been through the trenches. And I mean, people have to follow you and check you out to really understand the story and what you do. But in your experience, what does it really take to be a successful entrepreneur?
I love this question because first of all, you talked about habits and I want to talk about that. And then number two, I want to talk about who you are and who you be, because those are at the heart of being successful. And success is not just financial. And I'm sure people in your pod have heard this and you've heard it from other places, but I take a deeper look at it because failing in such an epic way in 2008 from a business perspective really opened my eyes to what it really means to me. And I think at the end of the day, success is something you define. I think that's the first thing. And when you're noticing that you're creating goals or your dreams are more influenced by outside than inside, they're probably not goals you'll ever want to really stay with. Because when things get hard, you said it yourself, we'll back off or we won't finish the job. And that's normal and human. So I'll talk about two things that I think of as success now, which is number one, I call them my success rituals. You know, to me, they're basically habits. I have a flow that I found works really well for me. So for example, my schedule looks like this. And I started adapting and adopting this about 5 years ago. 5 years ago was like a big turning point for me in terms of, you know, I'm entering another season of my life. I actually want to become a career author and speak more instead of being CEO of my companies. And I knew that in order to do that, I had to shift the way I was working. And so one of my success rituals is I have a 4-day weekend. And I know that sounds luxurious to most people, but let me explain. I realize that I'm better in flow when I don't work when I first get up. I'm not a morning person. And I think if you're not a morning person, you should honor that. Even if you've got kids waking you up and you have to make breakfast, but finding ways to get into flow, even if you have to wake up early. And so for me, I don't work until 10 a.m. and I work intensely Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays in my business. And it works for me. Some people would say, oh, that would be hard for me. For me, I love it because I'm like, okay, I know what to look forward to. And then Mondays and Fridays are reserved for self-care and creativity. And so that includes reading. Like one of my joys of life is if I didn't have to do anything else, I would just sit in a corner and read. That's who I am. And so and to me, that is quote unquote working. But most people would say, oh, you're being lazy. And I had to learn how not to be quote unquote lazy. In fact, no, that stuff nourishes me. And, then I can have a regular weekend with my kids because they have school Monday through Friday. So I can be available for that. Because I used to adopt a philosophy like, oh, if you're an entrepreneur, every day is a Friday or a Monday. There's nothing in between, right? It's like you're either looking forward to Friday or Monday. And once I figured that out and trusted it, my team stepped up. My husband started aligning around this rhythm that I wanted to create, whereby actually now I feel more present with the people I love than I ever have with this schedule, but it still honors my flow. And so that's the first thing. That's like my number one success ritual is figuring out where to spend your time and energy first and trusting it. So to me, that's success.
I love it. We've been talking a lot about Cal Newport's book, Deep Work. That's on this podcast because I'm reading it right now and I'm listening to his podcast. And that's what he talks about. He talks about finding days or ways to focus on the deep work. So there's no notifications, there's no meetings, there's no emails. It's if reading for you is a way of having self-care and enriching you, but also giving you ideas for business and talks and how to train people, then it's very productive.
Yes. And I think we have to give ourselves permission that we can model a different way of living and still produce results. And I think that's where we get afraid that we won't produce results or people will judge us. And I think we're both living proof that if you own your time and your energy, you're the most successful person in the world. That's how I feel. Like if you own your time and your energy, you are successful, period. So that's how I look at things.
I love it. Okay. So deep work, everybody, deep work. Take Mondays and Fridays off. When I had my 12-person agency and we had clients from all over the world, I said it was absolutely mandatory that we have no reoccurring calls on Fridays. No client meetings, no sales calls. Like you say no, you can't have a call because that's the day of the week where you're going to wrap up projects and it allowed the team to be creative. Like we used to have like this part of our businesses that was labeled labs, where you have a creative idea you want to do for us or for a client, then use that day to just work on that. And if you want to leave early, then leave early. And so giving that space for them to be able to be flexible with what they're working on as a knowledge-based worker was beautiful. We had so much fun all the time. And I don't work on Mondays either, but I do. It's a different kind of work. It's the emotional work of being a mother. And Mondays are always dedicated to like passport pictures or like all those little things that have to get done, but you can't have a child with you.
100%. That's exactly what I do. Yeah. It's Mondays and Fridays it's both creativity and all the mini things that we still are responsible for.
Yes.
So,
Our third job. So as mothers, I was talking about this the other day, we have 3 jobs. We have our day job, we have parenting, and then we have emotional labor.
Yes.
Right. Of which we're not compensated for.
Yes.
And if anything, it does our body a disservice because we're always worried and anxious. Okay. So you're this branding expert.
Yeah.
And if you can't see this, you watch the video later, she has a beautiful JK logo behind her. But even understanding branding is so complicated, especially for newbie entrepreneurs, because I think it's just diving in and it's picking colors and fonts. And there's so much more to that.
Yeah.
So what are your top tips in creating a master brand, thinking of the listeners being in their first to 5 years of being in business?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and this is going to sound contrarian coming from a brand expert, but colors, logos, et cetera, are not what you should care about in the first year or more of business. You want to get really good at figuring out how you want people to see how you help them and the messaging that comes with that. And the only way you can do that is by trying on a lot of different, what I call message outfits. Okay. You have to try in a few identities because when you're first starting out, you think it's the thing like, oh, this is the world changing idea. Or even if it's not in your mind world changing, it's more like maybe a side hustle, but you have an idea to earn money in some kind of way and help people through your idea. And people think of branding again as like aesthetics. And actually, in my model, aesthetics are the third most important thing in the process. When you think of a brand, you actually don't think so much about their color and logo. It's more of a signifier. It's something that you see over and over again. It's on purpose so that people will remember you. But in today's world, like the big brands, we're talking about like Starbucks or Toyota or, seeing the car dealer on the street. We're moving toward an era of what I call micro brands, right? Brands through social media, your personal brand. There are three types of brands. There's your personal brand, your offer brand, and your company brand. And the company brand used to be the most important brand, 20 years ago. And now it's about your offers and your personal brand as more, because that's what creates the company, if that's what you want. Because some of us listening, you don't want to create a company. You want to build something that fits your lifestyle. You want to, but some of you want to build the next Tesla. Maybe some of you listening want to do that. And either way, the formula is still the same from a foundational level around how to build a brand. You need to figure out what you're really saying to people. And does that align with your values? Because one of the biggest crimes on the internet streets, I like to say, is that you build something you never wanted to build to begin with. And you start making a little bit of money and you think, okay, this is it, but you hate it. Like you absolutely despise it. And you don't know whether or not you hate it because it's hard or you hate it because you actually don't want to do it. And the only way to find that out is to try another message on and see if that is. So the heart of branding is actually messaging, and the way that you get people to know your brand is marketing. Okay, and then marketing and branding are not the same thing. In fact, I like to say, of course, me with my brand hat on, everything works for branding. Marketing works for branding. Sales works for branding. Media works for branding, because it's what creates trust and reputation. And so then once you figure that out, then you can spend more money on logos and colors. And I will say this, your logo is going to change. Even if you stay with the same business, Starbucks has changed their logo 17 times. If you saw Apple's first logo, it was awful. It was like Sir Isaac Newton under an apple tree. Can you imagine Steve Jobs wanting that logo? But he approved out of the gate. It was really ugly. Just Google it and you'll see it. And the bottom line is this, is like building a brand is about how people trust you to deliver an offer. And that offer needs to be, they say like products are important when we say whatever it is, whether it's an expert-based product, an info product, an actual physical product, it has to deliver the job that you say. And when you do that, that's the simplest thing I'd say, like deliver a quality product in the beginning and refine your messaging and be willing to be wrong, because you will be. And those that are willing to be wrong are the most successful in building their business from the beginning. And that's why, unfortunately, 80% or more of entrepreneurs don't make it past the first couple of years, because it has nothing to do with your finances. It has everything to do with your ability to know that the first year you're trying stuff on. And the first time you don't get it right is not going to be ever the last time, because you're going to continue to get it wrong. I get it wrong. And I've been in business now 20 years and I still get it wrong. And I've learned to see that as a strength, not as a weakness. So I think I answered it in a little bit.
It's such an interesting perspective too. And actually, it's funny because I just did a Reels right before this about how it was like, don't look at her, look at me. Or it was like, anyways, it was like a popular audio. And the whole point of it was to tell people they don't need fancy funnels or Facebook ads to get started. They actually need to like define their customer, understand what they need, and create the products or services for them, not the other way around.
Yes.
And a lot of people fail to do that.
Yes.
Like so I have one woman that I'm working with, and she has this really awesome hair serum, and she's trying to figure out how to like increase sales. Admittedly, maybe not the best branding, but a really good product. And I'm like, don't even consider the branding right now. Just get distribution. Distribution is key. And at the end of the day, if your product works as you say it works, people will not care what the logo looks like.
Yes.
They really don't.
And let them pay for that, meaning through their ambassadorship of how awesome the product is, and that's how, even as I said, Steve Jobs evolved his logo from what it was. He realized once he had a niche, like the creatives, before Apple was just for creatives. It was very almost uppity, like, hey, if you're an artist, you would never use PC, right? And that's when he came out with the iMac, which was so colorful and beautiful. And he realized, okay, now we can spend the money. Now we can invest bigger on the way things look. And it was because he dialed in the product and the people. That's what he did. If you dial in the product and the people and you do it through trying things, you've got a winning formula.
Pursuing big ideas, following your dreams, and taking chances can feel scary, especially if you're doing this all alone. That's why I created the Wild Collective, a community for women just like you who want to create, launch, and grow a wildly successful business. Whether you're just starting out or in a rut or aiming for the first $1 million in sales, there is nothing more powerful than surrounding yourself with a community of women just like you that want to succeed. Look, you can Google the answers to all your business questions and find some stellar content. You can vent to your friends, or you can lean on your neighbor for some business advice. But nothing compares to joining a vetted community of insanely talented and mindful women that are all reaching for the same dream, to live their life on their terms while growing a purpose-led business. In the Wild Collective, we host monthly expert trainings, group coaching from myself and other experts, access to a growing portal of incredible content designed to help bring your business to life and beyond, discounts to offers and events, and the greatest growing community in this corner of the internet. So if you're craving that connection and community as a listener to the podcast today, you can gain early access to the Wild Collective. Simply pause this episode. Pause the episode, click the link in the show notes, and join us. I can't wait to connect with you and help you grow a wildly successful business. See you there. Okay, so you answered some of this, but where do newbie entrepreneurs begin this process?
Yeah. So to brand or to start their business or?
To branding as part of starting their business.
Okay, let me talk about a framework that we use.
Yeah.
And it's called the Master Brand Method. And there are 5 components to the Master Brand Method. So the first is archetypes. So the archetypes are your brand voice and the character that your brand is and how people will see you. And then the second part is the audience. So that's pretty obvious. Archetypes and audience. So the archetype is about you. The audience is about them. And so what is the relationship between you and them and finding that intersection? And then the third step is aesthetics, because from that information, that's how you start to determine what you should look like, sound like, spending more money on a fancier website, etc. But I got to tell you, the first 5 years of your business, you do not need a fancy website. And those that spend money on that, unless you are raising money and you're a VC and like you want a quick exit, and that will become into play. But otherwise, if you're starting a business, bootstrapping it, definitely not important. I know that sounds crazy coming from a brand person, but it really isn't important. It's going to blow your budget and make you feel like a failure. Just because you have a pretty website does not mean you're going to make money. But aesthetics as part of the model is as you grow, your aesthetics will evolve, as I said earlier. The fourth step is activation. Now, activation is a fancy word for marketing, product launching. It means that in order for people to know how you can help them, you have to put it out there. And that's my definition of marketing. It's letting people know how you can help them. And that includes things like you just mentioned, distribution. And even, again, I'm with you. You do not need a fancy funnel in the beginning, but you do have to figure out some way for people to know how you can help them. And that's what activation is. And it includes social media, it includes traditional media, it includes funnels, but you have to choose the things that will work for the business you're building, because you don't want to do everything. You want to activate what will work. And then the fifth is actually an inside job, which is the amplification part of it. And traditionally, I know you have a publicity background, right, Renee?
Yeah. I do.
So you'll hear amplification used in public relations and media of like, how do you amplify a story and whatnot? My definition of amplification in my model, because it is that, and in my model, it's about amplifying who you are, getting courageous every step of that model, because it's a circular model. It's not a hierarchy. It's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's okay, now that I've learned some stuff, how to amplify it is I'm going to go back to the beginning. Is this in alignment with my archetypes? Does my audience want it? Am I ready to extend to other audiences? And then do I have to evolve my visual branding, which is aesthetics? So it's this circular thing And I know it might sound a little overwhelming when I say it to you because Renee asked, what should you do to start? And my thing is get to know who you are first. That's the point. Archetypes are about who you are and get clear on that, or as clear as you can, and then move kind of thing, like take action. So I hope that answers enough of the question.
Yeah, it totally does. And then do you have stuff on your website where people can go and...
Yeah, I have something straight up for your community. My team is so good. I have this archetype quiz, and it's not some clickbaity, what's your Disney princess thing where I'm just trying to like remarket to you a bunch of junk stuff that you'll never use. It's an actual psychological assessment that I developed over a decade ago, and then it got certified by university. So it's really a psychological take on who you are and what kind of business you want to build. And so people buy it every day from us for $250, but I want to give it to your community, Renee, and you will get, it's cool because you don't just get some type of answer that's not whole. You'll actually get 3 deep psychological reports on yourself and the 3 archetypes that drive how you want to be seen in the world. And then from there, it'll give you some prompts and questions to ask as you're thinking about the audience you want to build, which is the second step in my model. So it is, just to give you the link, and I know, Renee, you'll probably put it in the show notes, but it's confidently.me/wild. So confidently.me/wild. So
I love that.
I hope, and if you, when you get your results, feel free to DM me on Instagram, and I'd love to chat it out with you. I'm a geek about these things, so I would love to support you. And Renee, if you take it, I want to chat with you about it. Like,
I love to know everything that's right and wrong about me. I love taking these tests.
Yeah, we love them. We love assessments,
Yeah, I think I've done every single like Myers-Briggs, Kolbe, Wealth Dynamics. I've done them all. And I think it's important. It's not the one solution you need to do thing. It's a good step though, an understanding. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So is this an assessment for entrepreneurs that have any size business, or is it really specifically focused for small business?
That's correct. It's for any size business. And that's back to me adapting what I learned in the corporate world and my success in the corporate world, and then figuring out that entrepreneurs weren't using these bigger models. In fact, what a lot of people don't know is that archetypes are the center of many advertising campaigns for bigger businesses. In fact, my first job was at Ogilvy, which is one of the top advertising agencies in the world. And it's where I learned about the term archetypes. When I was young, I was 23 years old, starting my career. And I learned very quickly how advertising executives use this to truly influence the world through brands. And so I adapted it for small business because I wanted it to be very clear and straightforward and not theoretical. And especially if you don't have a marketing background or an advertising background, that you could get it. So this assessment does really line that up for you. And at the same time, can be used for a corporation. In fact, all the teams that we support at ChemCom, which is my other company, we use the assessment as part of our evaluations of their work too.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So I will put the link in the show notes. And if you do the test, please message Jennifer and me too. I'm curious, but I'm definitely going to do this right after this. All right. So I have one last question for you, arguably the most important question. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that to you?
Well, I'll say that I am actually in the middle of writing a book too. And when I think of wild woman, I think of what I call being values driven. And so this is the heart of the book I'm writing. It's what I discovered after I left my corporate career. And also my first business was extremely successful. And then it was extremely unsuccessful. And I asked myself, what really motivates me to continue to blow past adversity, to still try to be the most messy mom I can be, but still have my kids like me? I always say like one of my number one success metrics for my life is that my kids still like me. And I think that certainly they drive me bananas and I've driven them bananas, but like that's one of my big metrics. And I've realized that it has to do with my values. And there are a lot of people who talk about values and you'll hear like, oh, this company's values and this, but it's deeper for me. It's my personal values, the core things that motivate me. And that when I know what they are, that drives me to complete things. And I actually think, and this is a theory in my book that I'm doing a lot of research on, is that people actually don't know their real values. They think they know, but they don't know. And so I'm creating another assessment similar to the archetype assessment that is going to help us dive deep. But it's based on 3 facets. Being a wild woman to me means you know the three things in your life that move you. And that is your vision, your voids, and your violations. And so your vision is your future self, voids are your present self, and violations are your past self. And when you understand them in relationship to each other, you'll find out what really drives you and motivates you to create the success that you want on your terms. So to me, being a wild woman is being values driven and understanding truly from the inside out what drives you, not from the outside in. So that's my answer.
Yes. Thank you. And when does this book come out?
Oh gosh, I hope we're in the middle of shopping it and I feel good about it, but a book takes forever. It has been the most confronting thing that I've ever done in my life. Oh my gosh. I feel like ask my editor, I'm like, I feel so humbled by this process. I have no confidence. Like people are like, you're such a confident person. I'm like, now when it comes to writing books, reading books, number one, reading books, but writing books is a whole different thing. And so just like making money and keeping money kind of idea. Right. And so anyway, to answer your question, sorry, I gave you the long answer to that, is we're hoping a year and a half because we're going traditionally published and that's how long things take. But,
I know. Yeah. I self-published my own book and that took 3 years, maybe 2 years. I did it myself. No, my husband's actually in the process too. And his book that he had to have completed. So he already had a signed deal, but it had to be done, or the first 3 chapters had to be done in December or something. And it's not, and we're recording this now on March 17th. By the way, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
It doesn't go out until 2023.
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
It's a whole process. It's a whole thing. It's so easy for us to read books, but the behind the scenes is a lot more complex. And there's a lot of different ways to do things, just like business. And so you're just navigating all of that. And so, but yeah, I'm excited. And I hope when it comes out, I can have a chat with you again.
Yeah, please do. Keep me on the list. I would absolutely love to talk about that. Okay, so people are interested in finding more about you. Where can they go online?
I'm on all the things, but my favorite places to hang out and talk story with you are definitely on Instagram. You can find me at jennifer.kem on Instagram. Also, I have a YouTube channel where I give a lot of free tips on how to build your brand. And you can just search for me, Jennifer Kem, and you'll find it. And then obviously go ahead and take that assessment, confidently.me/wild, where you'll find out your brand archetypes. And when you do that, obviously you'll get a few emails from me that teach you how to use it, et cetera. And whenever you want to hit reply to one of those emails, either me or one of my team will see it. So I love email. I think that it's the one area that we can really control the narrative of our brands. And so I hope that you check it out.
So make email part of your brand strategy, guys. Yes. So I will put all those links in the show notes. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Renee. It was so fun.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time, the best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.